Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for BTC and SOL. It's going to be a fun one, this one, because we've just had our US federal funds rate and FOMC statement, the media statement. So we got exactly what they were predicting. So markets kind of like that. They like it when the answer is what the forecast is. So we're seeing a bit of up and down and people sort of positioning and all that kind of stuff. But at the moment, I'd say pretty much it's a nothing burger, and the main focus is just focus on whatever structure does. We do have the unemployment claims tomorrow, and we do have the Bank of Japan policy rate on Friday. So we might get some expected, unexpected type shocks from those. But so a little bit more news this week, but overall FOMC pretty much a nothing burger. Okay, let's have a look at liquidity. So, yeah, as you can see, it's kind of one day liquidity is just pretty even top and bottom. People don't know what to do. That's what happens when you just don't really have any clear direction. I think overall, people assume that, because we've had these rate cuts that everything's going to go up, which might mean there's more of a risk of actually a downside move first, but I guess we'll see how that plays out. And just quickly looking through them, the 1 day, the 7 day, and the 30 day all seem to, well, actually the one day, probably the 1 day and the 7 day might favor a little bit of a push up before some kind of sweep down. Maybe it's pretty close. Same areas that have been present pretty much all week. 117, we hit that on, we actually hit that 117.2 number, that structural hold level on BTC that we talked about yesterday, and that's rejected off that and hasn't really managed to recover back up to that level yet, but liquidity has formed again from all the shorts that have chased the dump. So we might get that second push up. There is an absolute ton. As mentioned yesterday, there is an absolute ton of hold levels formed between 117 and 119, 120. So they kind of got the ability to just keep going up and hitting things and rejecting back, and going up and hitting the next one and rejecting back. And it seems kind of inefficient to do it that way. But if you just want to keep it ranging, then the structure is there to do it. So efficiency would be just to sweep up, take it all, come down, one rejection, then pump. But it might just, maybe they do just want to keep BTC sideways for a bit more. As far as the downside targets, they're still in play, down to that sort of like 112 area, probably in the more short term. There is a 10-day close today, which looks like it could be a really good trap for longs, both on BTC and on SOL. So we'll look at that a bit later, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see a sweep on SOL up to sort of 247, 248 again. The liquidity seems to be there's not a lot more opening up around those 250s on the 1 day, and 224 to the downside, which anything from 228 to 224 is sort of where our support, like decent support, starts, and 214 is where the really high time frame stuff comes in. And so let's have a look at the mess that they made. So as you can see, they've gone and swiped a bunch to the bottom and then gone up. On the short term, BTC is not really actually making higher highs. On this, it's sort of it's pretty much on the fence as to whether it takes another dump or whether it creates a higher high. But either way, the liquidity to the upside is still in that 117 range. So they might go take it, come down again. So SOL, went for a bit of a run. It's run into resistance. It's pulling back. Interestingly, there's not a lot of people chasing that pump, which seems a bit weird. You'd think that when people see something skyrocketing, then they'd start to chase it. But maybe the DGNs have just taken the day off, given it's FOMC, and they just wait and see what happens. But certainly we've got all of this liquidity sitting down here to the downside, all the way down to that sort of 224 area. And we've got supports here, and they're not just supports at 228. There's actual targets taking the price, like multi-day targets taking the price down to 228. So it's really if they are pushing up, it's possibly just to bring in more longs before pushing down. So, and it's all just, like I said in the Discord just moments ago, it's all just noise. There's a lot of signs you can pull from times like this. Like people are posting screenshots of all their successes and their positions being up and all this kind of thing, and all of that just comes from euphoria, like they're trying to celebrate. But if one person is euphoric, well, probably 10 others are too. And if markets are euphoric, then they're frothy, and then you're probably going to find the price reverses. Whether it's euphoric in their shorts and then it pumps up, or euphoric in their longs and then it goes down. But there's just a lot of that bullishness floating around at the moment, and yet structure is not really pointing to a pump. Basically, there's still just as many reasons for this thing to go down as there is for it to go up. So let's have a look at charts. Okay, so the closes today, there's lots of them, and some of them are really, really important. So the SOL BTC close for strength may introduce a interior downtrend, so that just starts to show weakness and strength on the daily level. It may also be closing underneath the support trend, which pretty much means that the next candle could give a bit of a push up, but it's going to push up into two forms of resistance. And given we've already swept the previous interior up there, it's not really looking bullish. So we are going to get a hold level, and that could either mean that price comes back a bit first, or strength comes back a bit first, then bounces up, then rejects, or it goes up first and then bounces down to the hold, and then the hold has to hold it, and if it doesn't hold it, well, then it loses that, and if it closes down, it loses the trend, and so on and so forth. So this is not in any way bullish structure. It's not totally bearish, but I wouldn't be celebrating my next 100x long, that's for sure. So really we're just watching to see whether it closes below the trend, which is anywhere up to about 205.92, and if it's got a wick on the top side like this, then it's going to create a secondary, which is basically like the third level now, third interior, second interior, third trend overall to the downside, and then you may get a little bit of a bounce when it hits 204.52, but it's not a full established range, so this is what you'd call a high risk hold level. So it may not support it at all. It could just hit the trend and then reverse and just continue to fall down. And we've still got all these untested levels and everything to the downside. And zooming out from the daily noise, which is an FOMC, we're still just rejecting off a weekly range trend, and we're still rejecting on the monthly off the monthly downtrend up here. So there's targets in play for all of these things. They're not up, so we'll just I'd just say don't get caught up too much in the hype. Wait and see how the day closes, and then make your choices on your trades after that. So as far as safety assets, so we rejected off the backside of the trend, so that all makes sense. We moved the trend actually, so this moved yesterday. We talked about that yesterday, didn't we? So let's just move that up to there. Oh, yep. And so we're back under the new trend, and we rejected off this trend, moved the trend, rejected off the new trend, and now we're coming down. We're creating a hold level. So this is a little contradictory. This is sort of implying that alts should actually have a little bit of a run if this keeps coming down. But of course it does depend how it closes. So in the next 2 hours and 54 minutes, what we're looking for is to see whether we get some kind of close over this level. So if we get a close over about 64.54, then we could bounce off the backside of the trend and head up to the break level up here. And this, because it's already broken one downtrend, its target is that break level now at 64.68. So it may go through a bit of noise to do it, and that could be some of this noise we're sort of seeing now where everything looks temporarily bullish, but then really it should be targeting that break level based on the breaker trend. If it breaks another trend, then it targets the hold level up here at 65, and if it breaks another one, then 65.09, depending on what targets it's already hit or not hit on the way up. So it's alternatively, and how much of a pump could we see before it actually continues its path up to the break level? Well, it might close down here, reject the hold, and then come back down, even down as far as the bottom of the range trend here. So it could do that, and that means you get sort of a day, maybe even a couple of days worth of move in the alts before it reverses and turns to custard and has a bit of a dump. But either way, it's not really bullish, bearish yet. Overall direction is this is going to go up, and at some point, and based on that, it means there will be a pullback at some point. Okay, DXY. So this created a range trend yesterday. It's rejected off the range trend. It's pushing down. It may create a hold level. So this is totals divided by strength of currency. So if it creates this hold level here at 3.6 or 361.2 and rejects off that, it'll just continue its path down. It's going to move a support trend if it closes like this, which is going to come down to here. So that would become the target. So somewhere around that 355.2 level, something like that. Now the other option is that it doesn't create that hold level, it goes up, and then really it's just going to have another fight with the trend. And I suppose the other option is that it actually doesn't close down at all today, and then the support trend doesn't move. It's still on the underside of it, but I suppose there's a lot in play with this. Just 3.62 to the upside, or 3.612 to the downside pretty much makes a big difference as to what comes next. And so then looking at just based on US currency for totals, if this was to close where it is now, then it's going to open the next candle on the wrong side of the support trend. So this is a little bit clearer, and this hasn't actually, so if you break it down to a lower time frame, this has not actually come back to this 3.77T area yet from entering the high risk hold. So there's a few things that could happen here. It could open on the wrong side and then pump up to meet that obligation, which would basically be a retest of the trend again, and then it could reject down and go down further after doing that move. So whether it jumps up for an hour and then it dumps, or whether it goes up and stays up there for half a day, etc. It would have to get back up above the trend and stay above the trend to then be able to use the support to try and move up. But as it stands, this looks like it's in a pretty decent downtrend still. It's got an interior trend running through here now, and it's pulled back well and truly under that. So overall, the total market cap for risk assets looks like it wants to continue breaking to the downside, and it really needs to go up a bit and close higher if it wants to continue using the support trend. Otherwise, it's going to be underneath the resistance, and it's going to be on the wrong side of that support, and then it's going to keep on heading down. So that's what that's telling us, really. And BTC, so I mentioned this in the Discord earlier, like we created this topping formation, this new range trend up here, and then we came up, and yesterday's close we were sort of just really teasing it. Like if we closed on top of this, we could have bounced and we could have moved up, but it didn't. It pulled back under just in the last moments of the day, closed underneath, and then what you're seeing now is that rejection. So yeah, when you get these kind of things forming, your first touch of this, if it closes on the underside, is 99.9% of the time always going to be a rejection, in which case you take profits there. You can always re-add them, and who cares what it does to your P&L percentages and all that kind of other fluffy stuff. Yeah, if you just took profits here, you could let all of this happen, and if it comes back up here, you could re-add them back in here and then continue to trade long if you wanted to, and you would be absolutely not worse off other than maybe a slight little open and close fee, you know, on your trade. That's all it really is. Or you took your profits here because you closed underneath a newly formed range top, and then guess what? You watched it go down and you were really happy you took your profits. So just always watch for these kind of formations appearing, especially when they do not create this hold level in here. So that, if you watch a couple of the previous videos, if you sort of want to see how this played out, or use the replay tool or something like that, but you can, this is the kind of signs that you're looking for in price structure, that hey, look, we're run into resistance, we're creating new local resistance, so we've run into older sort of more global resistance, we're creating local resistance, we're going to reject, and then down we go. So so what this is telling us now on the daily is that if we close down like this, we're going to move a support trend, so that'll shift from here to here. And as long as we close above this, we've got a pretty good chance of some kind of sweep and bounce. We could just get a bounce straight off this. That is possible. We are still inside the daily range, which, so as long as we stay above 114,320, we're still inside the local daily range. We do run the risk of this 116,226 area becoming a new origin level if we have one more day to the downside. So you sort of see the range that's appearing is between these 116s that we really need to get out of and close over the top of to move up, versus the 114s, where if we start closing under 114s, then we've got a big problem. So it doesn't matter if we dive below that and come back up, but you just don't want to see candles starting to close full days below here in distribution. So so that's kind of the range we're in now. That's where the trend will shift. It will change quite a bit if the day closes under 115,300, and that's because we'll be closing. If we do that, we're moving the support trend down, we're creating a hold level resistance, and then we're also creating this little wedge in here, which can really just get price stuck in a really tight spot, where it will have to condense and then break one way or the other. So pretty critical close, this one, as to whether we see some more downside short term, or upside. It could flip bullish. I mean, if it really did want to, and it went up and it closed over 116.7 or 116.8, just above this range trend, then the option then is to bounce off the top of the range trend and head up. Only catch is with doing that is that the next break level for rejection isn't that far up from the range trend. So 116.8 up to about 117.5. So it'd be good for kind of proving that price is wanting to continue its upwards path if that happens, but it also could just reject straight off that break level and then come back down again. So nothing will be hard closed. The most bullish thing that could probably happen out of this daily close for BTC would be that the price creeps back up, closes over the range trend at around that 116,800 level, bounces off the range trend and comes all the way up to this hold at 120k, and then rejects off that. So that's about the most bullish possible outcome, and but I wouldn't envision it getting much past that hold without some form of rejection back. Whether it goes lower than where it is now, it wouldn't have to, because you would be hard closing a bunch of levels if you did that. So you might just end up rejecting back to 116s and then traveling up again. But it's and then we could finally start to target that trend at the top, which is almost a higher high. Okay, let's have a look at our 2-day close. So 2-day close is just, on the fence. It may open above the trend, in which case it could bounce. It has hit the 2-day break level. 119 would be the 2-day hold. So that looks bullish. So even if the 1-day closes bearish, that could just mean that we dive the trend a little bit on the 2-day before we push up. So it's not game over. Looking at the 4-day, 4-day is going to create an interior support trend if it closes blue, but it is right on the fence, really. It's actually not a bad way to close. It either closes up and then could bounce off the top side of the trend and come up here and test the origin level at 119.8, or it closes down and creates an interior support trend, which just shows that we are getting momentum and support, and then it could bounce off that and then come up here and test that. So that's not actually that bad to close, really. So 5-day, excuse me, very similar, same origin level, 119.8, and it is possible if the 5-day closes up that it actually breaks the downtrend. So that means you'd need to close over 115.978, and then there'd be, if it did that, it depends on exactly how it closes, because if it closes up but still has a wick, the trend shifts and it could still be under the new trend and then reject, and that could mean a dive. Yeah, it could mean a dive back to the base of the range, because it would also be closing back inside this range. So this is very possible, where you could have a subtle close to the upside, a rejection of the trend, and a retest of the proper range, which it would then be a hard close back inside the range, and then it could come down and retest this 112,600 level. So or it doesn't break the trend, but it gives another support trend, and then it's up to the next candle, really, as to what that does. If it pushes all the way up to this 119.8 level, though, the rejection of that could be quite big, because that's a untested origin level. So it could hit that and come down, break the trends again. So 10-day. So this is the one that looks like a pretty clean trap, and when you start to get bigger in time frames, the picture often gets clearer. So we will create our first interior downtrend on the 10-day today. So if this closes with a wick to the upside and a gap between price and trend, we can hit the trend and reject back to the hold level, and the numbers are just pretty clear. It means sort of we go back up to that 116.7, 116.8, anything above that, and then we hit that trend, and then we come down to the 112.5. So this is the one that has confluence with the majority of the daily structure. Given it's a 10-day, it could take a little bit of time to play out. There could be a sweep. Maybe they go as high as some of those lower time frame origin levels by sweeping through the trends. It really just comes down to, if it does go up, how does it close? But if it goes up and then pulls back in the next 10 days under the trend, then yeah, it'll be coming down here. But there's also the reverse of this is true. If we just get a lower time frame pullback before the higher time frame resistance is activated, then that gives us the opportunity to start to long these lower levels and then long them back up to the resistance. So that's looking, it's good. Going to get some good trades in the coming days. Hopefully better than some of this 4-hour stuff that I've been eating table scraps off the 4-hour chart for a couple of days now. So it's time we start to get something bigger. So yeah, looking at the 13-day, we've still got untested levels down here in that 106. We're still going to hold the support trend. We haven't gone back to the trend since hitting the hold, so this is also pretty much in line with the 10-day, but from a different direction. So yeah, the 10-day is telling us that it's creating a hold and a trend today, and it's going to potentially reject off one and go to the other, or find support on one and go long to the other. That what this is saying is that it's already hit a hold level, it's already hit a trend, and it needs to retest a trend. So it's just another sign that we are probably going to get a dip. And sure enough, what do we make? We make a 20-day topping formation, just going to be like that. So on the 20-day chart, it really is going to depend on how it closes. We haven't lost the uptrend on the 20-day. If it pulls back down below this trend that's running in here, so that would mean a close, 115-ish, probably be, is that 115,300 number again, right? Yeah, it is. So if we close below 115,300, then we're underneath the longer trend again, and underneath the one that's forming the sort of topping formation. And yeah, then we got to go down, and this looks like it's pretty, yeah, we've tested that level, so this is a pretty, it's a bit bearish. Thankfully there's some bigger supports, etc., that might kick in, but worst case scenario, this is going to travel to a trend. So it either has to travel to a trend, or it has to be so slow in traveling to a trend that it creates a new trend, which is also possible, because the thing with trading trends is the amount of time it takes to get to one can always create another, and it can then use that as support. But this, yeah, if it doesn't create another one, then it's one of those 90s sort of targets. So ideally you kind of want this to close up. So even because if it closes up, it can reject off the backside of the trend that's up here, still come down, meet the obligations of some of the smaller time frames, but because it started from the top side of the support, then as it gets closer to the 20-day market, it gets pulled back up. So that's you kind of want that to close up, but it'll do whatever it does. 26-day. So we're not moving our support trend or losing it based on this. I mean, it could close up and create something. Not really. It's not actually too much that this time frame can do. It's pretty much, it's had that. It's hard to close this. I mean, it could come back for a retest, but that would be sort of around 100k, and it would have to get through the hold level around 104. If this was to close up today, maybe the only thing that actually then induces is a retest of the 106 break level, which would be the first time it's hard closed. I mean, if the next candle closes up as well and doesn't get over the top of the support, then it could do the same thing. So there's actually, we've got another break level in there at 108 that could get retested if this closes up, and if it closes down, it doesn't really change anything. So 52-day, and this is just an illustration of what all the high time frames have been doing on BTC for a couple of weeks now. They just keep closing kind of 50% in between two high time frame levels. So you have a resistance, you have a support, and they just keep closing in the middle, which kind of means that they get stuck, and then the next one just closes in the middle and the price just goes sideways. So if one of these time frames actually does actually properly hard close to the upside, then the next move could be epic, but it's just not doing it. It's not doing it. It's just teasing. So this will create some kind of, I think it's going to be, so it'll be an interior trend break, but it's also then just going to shift. So when it shifts, that should introduce some support around that 111, 112 area. So it's all pretty confluent. If it dives the 114 trend, then it's going to run into the new 112, 112.8 sort of trend. So yeah, it's pretty confluent. And same numbers on the 65. The 65 hasn't tested the topside resistance trend yet. It hasn't had a first touch. So if it just goes on an absolute rampage up to 128, expect a big rejection from that, because it's just kind of this has opened, been in the middle, and hasn't really performed anything of any significance yet. It hasn't hard closed the 108 level. It hasn't moved back to the 93,570 hold. It basically just found support on this interior trend that was running up here. So that was broken. It moved to there. This has come up. It's found support on it. It's going to open. Pretty much the next candle will be touching it. So it's kind of like a 50-50. May pay to look at this just on a lower time frame and just see whether it's actually above it or below it. Let's look. Let's give the trend a bit of a wiggle, see which one it is. Uh-oh, it's that one. Yeah, so it's below it, based on a daily. So yeah, it's a little bit bearish. Might see a higher time frame rejection play out over a bit of time. But it's also possible that it comes all the way up here first, so it's a very big time frame. Yeah, 130, same thing, in the middle. Just going to open a candle in between support and resistance. So what do we got? We got 112-ish starting to the downside, and 120 to the upside. So everything's just lines up. Whether it's the various levels of the short-term ranges or the high time frame, pretty much everything says that we've got something that at some point we're going to have to hit these 120s, and if we do, it's probably going to come from going into or below the 112s, and if it happens the other way, then who knows what the rejection could be like. So that's what that's saying. So let's have a look at SOL. Okay, so this is our topping formation. It's also an interior downtrend. Really, it comes down to how this closes. Much like everything else, if it closes at or below about 238, then it's in a 238.3, then it's in a really good position to reject off the backside of everything and then go down. If it can get above 240 for the day and close, then that's a little bit more bullish, and then we could potentially see it move up. And based on where the 10-day trend is sitting and the rejection for the 10-day trend, it wouldn't surprise me if this closes up for the day, because it could have another pump before it has a dump. That also sort of lines up with what the safety assets were sort of showing, where we could have another pump before we have a dump. So yeah, just be watching this trend that's running down here, seeing whether or not we close over top of that, and over top of some of these interiors, just to be even more bullish. So sort of around 238, 239, or sorry, it's 239 really. You want to be over 239, you want to be over those trends. Now, bearish scenario, of course, is that it closes anything under about that 230. What's going to be really bearish? Really bearish would be sort of under 238. It's going to open on the wrong side of everything, and then it could push up just like it pushed up here. So when you close underneath resistance, it doesn't mean you don't go up, but it just means you sweep the liquidity and then you end up coming back down. So yeah, this is much like BTC, very critical moment. 2-day is still above its support trend, but it's looking like it's going to move so it's going to move the older trend to the upside if it closes yellow like that. So once again, it's all about the wick. It's possibly damned if it does, damned if it doesn't, really, because if it closes anything below 241, and would mean it has a wick, it's going to be under the new trend. It could reject off the trend. It's a pretty small little wedge, this, but yeah, it's certainly not looking it's not looking totally bullish. If it does that, flip to the top, might sweep, come down, and of course really bearish would be if it got to, what about, funnily enough, 237, 238. So kind of in confluence with the daily if it was to close and open on the wrong side of that trend, that's double bearish, because it would shift the trend to the upside and then open on the wrong side and then bounce and drop. So there you go. So still rejecting. So we spoke about this, it must be 4 days ago because it's a 4-day close, but rejecting off the range trend on the 4-day. We've pulled back underneath the trend that shifted. So this is just an example from something that happened 4 days ago, and you're now seeing the repercussions of it. So we shifted this trend to the upside 4 days ago. We pushed through it. We swept the liquidity. We hit the range trend retest on the top. We rejected, and it was actually a couple of range trends and a main trend. Everything rejected it, and now it's heading back down. It's not totally a bearish close. It's pretty much an indecision close at this price point because it's still got support of one of the trends that's running upwards. It would really have to come down below sort of 235, 236 to be opening on the wrong side of that. Then it gets quite bearish. We've still got some levels down below that haven't been retested since they were hard closed, and we are creating a new standard support trend in amongst all these trends. Just goes up like that. So it's still capable of having another push if it bounces off the new trend. But yeah, it's got a lot of resistance to the top side on that one. Okay, 5-day. So 5 days not shifting anything to the top side. It hasn't technically hit. So it's got a trend up there, which it didn't quite hit. So it's still got that exterior resistance trend up just up above the sort of 250 area, which it could just go up to, hit anyway and dump, but that's and it hasn't hard closed any of these ranges. So it does have a hold level down here at 209, 210, and it's going to create a very subtle new uptrend in there. So yeah, this could bounce off the trend and go back up, hit one of these higher levels. Or the other option is it closes down a bit, so it really only has to get to about 237, 236 by the end of the day, and then it could open on the wrong side of some of this, and then that could be a big rejection. Whenever you get trends condensing like this and becoming really tightly lined up, then usually they either give a stronger bounce or a stronger rejection. So and right, 10-day. This is the one. So with the 10-day, the trend's going to shift to the top side today. So it's going to move up here, and we'll just put an alert on that. It's also going to create this hold level at 214. And this is of interest to me because we're going to have trend support. We're going to have a hold level, and we're going to have a trend to reject and a reason to go there. And it's all confluent with where our high time frame support begins. So this could be the structure that is utilized to basically send the price down before a big push up, because it's something like an 18-week support sitting at this level. It's a big one. It's something. Sorry, let's see if I can find this. 4 weeks, 18 week. I think it's that one. Yeah, it's 213. So yeah, 213 point. Yeah, 213.273 or lower. So, what we have sort of sitting down in this area, particularly of interest between 213 and the 170s, is some really big support capable of sending the price up to minimum expected targets of 286. So these are the kind of stuff we want to get in if it dips into this area, and we want to be able to ride it up to there. And we're just looking for this low time frame structure to find a reason to send it down. So this could be that reason to send it down, and that changes today. So we might get a push up into that, and then a proper retrace, and then a proper move up. So hopefully it plays out like that. It's no fun when it's just up only. So looking at 13-day, 13-day is not going to move any trends. It's not going to create any new support trends. It's got untested levels down in the 180s. It's got a, I think it's a range trend. No, it's just a normal trend. It's got a normal trend that it's above, which is about 204. So, it's got a range trend sitting down here in the 190s. I mean, there's plenty of support, but you'll notice on all these high time frame charts, all of the support is down in this area, and it would be really cool to come down, hit that, and then just moon. Okay, and 20-day chart, we've hit the break levels, we've retraced below the break levels. I mean, this is kind of showing that it wants to reject. This is some of the support we have at around the 228 to 224 area. So although it grates me a little bit to take a very lazy entry, it might pay to be laddering in from these levels just in case it doesn't come all the way back down. But yeah, the other option is if we get that 10-day rejection, just to set up some lower time frame trends, just start watching as it develops, and you can adapt your trends. You can start on a 15-minute, and then if it continues going down, you just evolve it to an hour and a 4-hour or whatever, and then just keep watching as it goes down until you actually get a sizable reversal. But so yeah, this sort of time frame, I mean, it would be super bullish if it just magically went up and closed over 247.26 today, and then just bounced off that, and then just targeted those upper trends. That would all be a beautiful thing to see. But yeah, we've got, what do we got? 2 hours and 21 minutes to go. So it's more likely that this is just in a rejection. 26-day, it's rejected off the break levels. It's still got one more break level up there at about 253, which also happens to be the daily hold. It happens to be the 4-hour front side. I think that's probably, if they do that pump into tomorrow, say they do a pump before a retrace, or if they sweep that 10-day trend, I just think that 253 level is probably going to be the key level that they aim at for any of that. This is extended up past its downtrend. That's about 208. It's miles away from its support trend. So that's really all the way back down to the 190s. There's not too much else to pull from that. There's no level. It's re-hard closing here at 193. So yeah, even if this sort of pulled back into this 190 area, it's still really healthy, still an uptrend. Okay, so the 52-day trend is getting broken and shifting to the top side today, and it's got a very old support trend running through here, which is around that 109, 110, 111. So this is adding confluence to some kind of rejection, dip down, and then just a complete breakout. And all of these levels have actually been tested. So we've got there's nothing really, once this thing bounces off this trend, there's really nothing on here to stop it. So so if it goes up first, hits the new trend, comes down, finds support, then everything on the top side's tested at that point, and then it's just off it goes. And yeah, we've tested for the third time the 65-day. This has got a hold level down here at 117. It's got a level that's closing above here, basically an origin level. at about 188. It's got trend support coming through at about 180s. This would be, I'd class this as quite a big pullback if it did do this. It would fit, within the realms of the range that exists on the 18-week structure. So it could pull all the way back into this. But once again, with everything sort of being tested to the upside, and this is not really a break level up here, because that is not a 65-day candle. It opened on November the 21st, so there's not really a break level up inside there. It's just that older one from all the way back there, which would be part of whatever time frame was in all those candles. So, and this has a range trend, big range trend coming through up to about 300s. And I can see that as something that would reject, because I think a lot of people who, they didn't sell when SOL was up around 295, and they've seen it come all the way down to 95, and if it got back up above 300 again, I think just psychologically people will sell. So that's makes sense that something happens if we hit that. But likewise, if we get up over the top of that and we close, well, that'll be a first. And the bounce off the top of that range trend would just literally be up into the world of price discovery. So let's just, sure, we'll forget about that in 65 days. Let's just set a limit on that one. All right. And once we get more into the high time frame stuff, we've got a trend up here. It's been tested before when we went to the all-time high. We've got support trends coming up in here. So this is all around those 260s. So could we see a rejection from the 266 area based on high time frame? Yeah, we could. Do we have support? Yes. You've got a trend running through here which will support it. We've got a hold level down here at 189, which would definitely catch it. So could we get that rejection? Yeah, it's possible. It comes down to if macro turns really bearish or whatever, and they would just want to use some of this stuff. Has it already had its first test and rejection? Yes. It was created there, and we had a hold level there, and it did that. So it's already done its thing, and the hold level is doing its thing. So it's is it more likely to get above it on the next attempt? Yep. The more times a trend gets hit, the more likely it is to fail. So but either way, it looks like it's got decent support and a means of actually getting through there, and it will be, as you can see, one of the highest closes we've ever had on the high time frame for SOL. So when you start to break down all these time frames, it's not so much about where is your highest daily close been. It's more like where is your highest 130-day close been, because price can go up and it can go down, but it's how long can it stay up is sort of the thing. And in this case, it just shows the momentum is really strong. So I'm overall quite bullish on SOL. I think it's proven it's going to go higher, but it doesn't mean it's going to take everyone along for the ride. So I guess we just wait to see, do we get a pullback? And as it's currently, we get closer to daily close, it's still going up. Let's have a quick look at some of these others. So SUI pushing up. So the target for SUI, ever since this hold trade, it is still up here at the break. So that's still the target. It should go there. It's just, does it stuff around a bit? Does it go down to trend first? Does it go up? If you're just in spot and that kind of thing, you probably don't have to worry about selling until you sort of see those levels, and even then it could still go higher. So that's looking pretty good. So ENA looks like it's trying to recover the trend, bounce back up. So it might create a hold level on the daily, and if it bounces off the hold level from the top side of the trend, then it could head up to that 0.73 at a minimum. So that's, if you're just taking a scalp anywhere below that trend when it went for its, this is actually looking like a bit of a sweep actually, so it's probably gonna, yeah, it just looks like it wants to push higher. If you're taking a scalp on that trend, you might have been underwater while it went down like that, but you'd be in profits now. Yeah, so he's just pushing up still on the daily. World Liberty Finance is bouncing off the backside of the trend resistance. So this could close up for the day. It'd be way better to see it close over the break level, like up in here, if you want it to be real safe, and then a bounce off that that trend, and then take it up to there for a 10-14% win. It is creating a new range trend today as well, so that would be, so this is a pretty bullish sort of bottoming. So kind of like on the top side, you've seen those formations that create rejection. This is creating a base. So it doesn't have a hold level here at this stage. So without that hold level, but with that bottoming formation, if it comes back down and tests this trend again, it should go up. And the target for these is a hold level, which is that 28 cent, 28.96 area. But it would also probably reject first anyway off that 26, maybe off the backside of the trend. So you just take TPs as it goes up, just TP into resistance as you go up, and set your stop loss accordingly. And eventually, when it gets over the next level of resistance, you can always shift your stop loss up and then TP and TP. So but that's looking like it's getting ready to reverse from there. ZEUS weekly still undecided. It really has to get over that trend, or it's going to be under that one. And so this is an example of, creates that bottoming formation. It's gone up like so, and when it did that, it ran into this one. So you got the same bottoming formation in there. Difference is this one closed on the trend, which is why it dumped. This one has been created. It closed above, it pumped, it hit the top, or it hit the resistance of that one, moved the trend, came back down, opened up, hit the trend, and came down. So, so this is still super undecided. It does have this, which has not been tested. So, but that's really low. I think people are going to be screaming if that drops down to 5-6 cents, but it's really possible that that does drop to 5 or 6 cents if it loses this range. Yeah, it turns to custard pretty fast. So, well, that's why we don't take longs on coins until they give us confirmation. Cook's not really doing too much. It's got another range trend through here, so that could pull back, then push up, and Hope's looking bullish on the weekly, so I wouldn't chase that personally. It's hard with this one because it's such a new token, but if it hard closes up here but doesn't get above this, then it does create some form of lower time frame trends, in there. And if it pulls back on that close, then rejection and then down to horizontal levels. So I wouldn't chase that, and I'd just wait and see how that closes. It's also going to have a shift, up to the top side here. So again, it's got several ways this could go bad, and the hard close of this trend and the shift of this trend and the rejection and another retest is all possible as well. So yeah, still just a do nothing on that one for me. Something else. What do we got going on over here? Oh, and say. And yeah, nothing changes on say. Still not going to move any trends. It looks like it might open. This is more of a monthly thing, so we'll look at this probably if nothing changes we're just expecting to long down in here and run that long up to here with a few different stages as we go. So, but at this stage, nothing. And that's it for today. So, yeah, hopefully you got something out of that. And let's see how this day closes. See whether we get a really bullish close and a push to the upside, or whether it flips bearish in the next couple of hours and sends us back on a retrace. Cool. Catch you later.